2023 at 7:27 p.m. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you join me in a Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next order of invocation is the invocation. Someone would like to give the invocation? Bruce? Okay. Amen. Kim, would you call the roll?
Mayor Gatway,
Here.
Alderman Coslow,
Here.
Alderman Gittmeyer, Alderman Johnson,
Here.
Alderman Ungerbach, Alderman Wandling,
Here.
Alderman Whitman.
Here.
Okay, consent agenda.
I move to remove item 7 from the consent agenda.
Got a motion to remove item 7 from the consent agenda?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Item 7 will be removed from the consent agenda. Public comments, Kim? Oh, yeah. Got a motion to approve the consent agenda with item 7 removed.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved without item 7. Public comments, Kim?
No, Mayor. Seven. It's been removed from consent agenda, but now some.
So we do it now, not new business.
Correct.
Okay, move to postpone, city county road maintenance and repair agreement funds for fiscal year 2024 until the next meeting or whenever it may be called forward.
Second.
Okay. So we'll get a motion to put item 7 on the next meeting consent agenda. Got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we'll move item 7 to okay. Now. Approve, do we approve it or do we go back to approve it?
They voted.
Yeah,
Mhm.
to approve it.
Yeah, I think
Got an
I
action?
voted.
Okay,
All in favor.
so public comments, Kim?
Paula Detweiler.
I'm here tonight to talk to you about fireworks. I did this a couple years ago and we didn't seem to pick up any speed on it, but those pictures that I'm showing you are of fireworks that was done in the subdivision of Lewis and Clark on Saturday before the 4th of July. The fireworks were put on 4 separate pallets. They were wired and they were daisy chained. And I found out daisy chained means that it will all go off as in a display. And the staining that you see is on brand new concrete that the city just put in within a year ago. And this is debris that fell down on houses, fell down on vehicles, and was in the grass. And we found most of this debris in our grass after the lawnmower hit it, which made it smaller debris. And these are like concrete. I don't know what they are, but they're very harmful to become flying down out of a firework. Those displays were so loud that the home, 6 homes down at the end of my cul-de-sac, shook. 4 homes the other direction shook. I had residents in my subdivision contacting me, asking me to please do something to stop this type of firework. I don't know what the city can do. I don't know what kind of fireworks these are, but I'm sure they're meant for a display. They are not meant for residential use. I don't know who sells them. But I know this particular person thinks they're perfectly fine to be set off when houses are put 7 feet apart. And on planning and zoning, I know we are constantly asked to move houses closer and closer together. And these houses are not made out of materials that will withstand one house catching fire next to the other one. So I'm asking this board and the city administrator and mayor, whatever you can do to prohibit this type of firework in this city, I would appreciate you doing that for the residents who don't want their homes destroyed. And I mean, this kind of stuff falling down on people's vehicles and on, on other things is ridiculous.
Thank you, Carla.
Joe Bratton.
I'm gonna take this outside. This may actually be explosives that haven't fully detonated, so.
Okay, we're gonna recess the meeting until
Till the bomb squad gets back.
Alderman. Okay, all right.
Appreciate it.
Wait, my.
Sorry,
There's like 4 days.
I feel good that your car is in between mine and yours.
Second, third, fourth.
Yeah, not in the dumpster.
I think that's.
I'm not. So just, if I may, I'm not an absolute expert, but I have seen enough explosives to know what they look like, and that resembles that. So judging that it came from a firework, that's it's a concern. So I don't know.
Okay. Yep.
My name is Cheryl Bratton. My husband Larry and I live on Cruden Bay Court in Inverness subdivision. What I'm about to read is from James Knowles' request for board action found in the February 1st packet regarding the Town Square Revisioning Committee. I hereby request the board hold a robust conversation at our next work session regarding the commencement of an inclusive and transparent process to lay out a broad vision for the area of the city previously referred to as the Uptown Zoning District. This process would include a broad swath of shareholders, be public and participatory in nature, and seek to have a unified and clearly defined plan for how the city envisions development to occur within the boundaries of the project area. This vision would lay out specific land uses, building aesthetics, infrastructure for multimodal transportation, and interconnectivity, expectations for revenue generation, and limitations, such as whether the city will consider multifamily residential and under what circumstances. My reason for sharing that paragraph with you this evening is to underscore the irony of Resolution 372 on tonight's agenda. The process of assembling a committee has been the antithesis of transparent. Some residents submitted their names 3 times to 3 different city officials or employees via 3 different methods, and the city failed to make residents aware of any pre-existing criteria for selection, nor has there been any measure of transparency as to how applicants were actually selected. Furthermore, the names listed as potential committee members on tonight's agenda are the exact opposite of what Mr. Knowles indicated should be a broad swath of shareholders. It's laughable to believe Mr. Johnson, Mr. Sansone, and Mr. Etzkorn care deeply about the comprehensive plan today, yet blatantly ignored its direction just a little over 90 days ago. Referring again to the February 1st document, they're the ones being asked to decide, quote, whether the city will consider multifamily residential and under what circumstances. P&Z reluctantly agreed to an 8-month turnaround time for the comp plan revision, and now the committee has just 8 weeks to meet the deadline, now leaving the board with 3 options. Continue to stonewall prospective developers even longer by extending the revision deadline, abandon the idea of a revision altogether, or be okay with the committee producing a rushed, less than quality document and writing yet one more check to PVGA in another 3 years. If your choice is the third one, to revise it every couple of years, I could help the city save funds by volunteer to assist in the comp plan writing process. However, 2 weeks ago, it was noted that my knowledge of the English language isn't at a level adequate for serving the city in that capacity. Last, you've had your robust conversation. For a change, try focusing on the residents with an inclusiveness and a broad swath of residents. Thank you.
The pattern of residents attending meetings and then they just stop showing up. We've been called names, assigned adjectives. You don't like our facial expressions and you would prefer that we don't clap. It's been over 6 months. We're still here, but I know why they stopped coming. Shouldn't all of our elected officials have the biggest hearts for our city? To me, that means caring for residents first. Looks to me like our youngest residents are the ones who are going to take the hardest hit by the pimple. After the last meeting on July 21st, an alderman, when referring to Prairie Encore, said, "Wish we could have told you." Having a confidant is truly a treasure, and they're to be appreciated. But in this forum, doing things in the dark when they should be done in the light is not a way to build trust. In the past, I have told you how Kim shared some Dardine Prairie history with me. Personal time, she wasn't on the clock. My first time ever playing bingo, I spent some time with Jen. Jen cared for us. I don't know if that's part of her job description or not, but she cared for us and she served us with a servant's heart. Many of the people behind me are random act of kindness people, caring people. I'm willing to share examples, but I'm sure I don't have enough time to do that in my 3 minutes. I've said all that to say this. There are good people already in place to make Dardine Prairie a great place to live. Some of them are in front of me, and some of them are in front of you. Dardine Prairie is trending. Dividing people is the only thriving industry in the United States today, and we are headed toward securing the city's spot in the marketplace. I would much prefer to see Dardine Prairie on the Great Place to Live list. Thank you.
Amy Pat.
Good evening, board. My name is Amy Pat. I live at 1702 Renoir Drive. Today marks the 3rd time that I've stood in front of you asking you to enforce the Sunterra landscaping plan as it was approved. My dad always says a squeaky wheel gets the oil, so here I am. As a reminder, the tree line that was to serve as the barrier was removed in error. I put that in air quotes. Almost 2 years of growth has been missed. Each time I pull into the subdivision, I observe the plethora of dead and dying evergreen shrubs, bushes, trees, and it's super annoying, much like me bringing this up 3 times. One can't help but to think there will be a similar lack of enforcement for our neighbors in Inverness when similar errors are made by Prairie Encore. Canvas Cove residents expect Darden to enforce what was promised. Please get this issue resolved. I also wanted to inquire about the selection criteria used for the Vision Committee. The handout does help me some, but as a retiree of Boeing, you should be keenly aware of the benefits of applying a diverse team, of tapping a diverse team, inclusive of women, minorities, and young professionals. In the state of Missouri, EEOC claims technically don't apply to volunteers, but the internal question is circling in my mind. Do you want to be remembered as the individual who only sees the benefits of a 7 to 9 committee, with most of those people being white? Or do you want to be known as someone who is open to diverse viewpoints and transparent dialogue with individuals that don't look exactly like you? While I don't know John from Wentzville, haven't we learned our lesson about engaging Wentzville leadership in Darden business? Can't you tap someone from St. Charles County who actually supports Darden? Thank you.
And Steinmetz.
Hello, my name is Ruth Ann Nimitz. I've been a resident of Darden Prairie for almost 28 years. I've been proud beyond proud to say that I was a resident of Darden Prairie. And suffice it to say that the antics that have taken place here have made me ashamed to be a resident of Darden Prairie. This committee is appalling to me as far as I'm concerned as a resident. How are there no residents on here? These are former members of the board on here. 3 of them, really? What about choosing people who are, residents of the city, who care about the city, who haven't already had their say on the board, or as a councilman, or as a planning and zoning member? It's just appalling. I've never been ashamed of my city until now. And I hope and pray that things turn around, because the way that the city of Darden Prairie is going is not beneficial. I raised my 2 sons here. They fled as soon as they could. They fled. Born and raised here. They were embarrassed about what's going on here. So I can only hope and pray that the good Lord above guides those of you who care about our city on the correct path. Thank you.
Let's move on to new business. Got a motion to rebuild 2336 the first time.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mike, second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hear none. James, will you rebuild 2336?
Sure. Bill 2336, an ordinance of the city of Darden Prairie, Missouri, approving the record plat for Henley Peak and authorizing the city clerk to attest and certify approval of said plat.
Any discussion or debate?
When did this go in front of P and Z?
Yes. That's 5 months.
I think it may be a foregone conclusion that we've seen it, but I just checked. I realized I didn't send out my request on Monday like I thought I had to get that plat.
It passed P and Z from the splitting of the lot only. John Young, maybe you can explain, you were here for that? No,
Yeah, I was here.
but
Yeah,
it just the lot split is all that was okayed by P and Z. The balance will have to be, once it's sold, will have to be platted, if I'm saying the right things.
Well, the rezoning you guys already did. So rezoning was part of it, and then now we're splitting the lots. Yeah,
Approval of the plat.
Which law is this on, Anna?
it's the far northeast corner.
Is that 1755? Okay, so it hasn't been rezoned then.
That's,
It's up for tonight.
I'm sorry, that's on old business still. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the, right. That part had went through planning and zoning. My apologies.
Do we have copies of that plat? Cause I apologize.
It went out with the original stuff like 5 months ago.
I brought,
It's a,
survey
Okay.
the city for month.
it's a simple lot split.
You want me to go get them?
Kim, would you get them?
Yeah, the
Yes.
plat, are we talking about a plat that approves any kind of use for any housing or anything like that, or are we just talking about the land? split?
Splitting his lot.
That's all.
Splitting
Okay,
his lot.
okay,
So
so
now it's R1. He's rezoning it because in order to split the lot, it'll be below the current zoning, so.
does that mean in order, do we need to do Bill 2318 first and then 2336, or does it matter?
Legally, no, but as a practical matter, if you're not going to approve the rezoning, you can't approve the plat, so it may be prudent to do so.
I'd move to,
Mr. Alderman,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can we wait for the city clerk so she can make a proper record of
oh, I
it?
was going to move to table it until later in the meeting.
I'm just saying any motion.
Okay. Oh, so she needs, I am so glad we had your. So I'd like to make a motion to table Bill 2336 until later in the meeting.
The second reading,
The second, well, yeah, the
Okay.
table second reading, table of bill in its entirety.
Okay.
Can we do that all in one and pull forward 2318 with a single motion, or do we need to split that into two motions?
I think the appropriate thing would be to take the items out of agenda and bring Bill.
It's 23.
2318 first, and then that would suffice for what you're presenting.
Can you tell me what I need to say?
It would be a motion to take item 2318 out of order and act on it currently.
Okay, so we can do that as no.
Correct.
Okay. Then. So moved.
It's a motion to take the agenda out of order and vote and take action on Bill 2318.
got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Here none. We're going to rearrange the order of the agenda. So we're going to move to old business Bill 2318. Have a motion to read Bill 2318. Is this, did we read it before or not? No, I don't think so. So
The
for first time, first
time.
reading.
So moved.
And a motion to read Bill 2318 for the first time. Second,
Second.
the second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Here none. Will, James, will you read Bill 2318?
Bill 2318, an ordinance of the city of Dayton, Prairie, Missouri, providing for the rezoning of approximately 1.59 acres of land commonly known as 1755 Hanley Road from R1A Single Family Residential District to R1B Single Family Residential District.
Any discussion or debate?
Bill 2318, second time.
Got a motion to read Bill 2318 for a second time. Got a second by Dave. All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? James, will you read Bill 2318 for a second time? Title.
For Bill 2318, an ordinance of the city of Dayton, Prairie, Missouri, providing for the rezoning of approximately 1.59 acres of land commonly known as 1755 Hanley Road from R1A Single Family Residential District to R1B Single Family Residential District.
Discussion or debate?
Call for roll call vote.
Got a motion for a roll call vote. Kim, would you call the roll?
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Whitteman.
Aye.
Alderman Gettemeyer. Alderman Wanling.
Aye.
Alderman Kessel.
Aye.
Ordinance 2261.
Declare Bill 2318 is ordinance 2261. Okay, now we'll go back to Bill.
Move to read Bill 2336 for a second time by title only.
Had a motion to read Bill 2336. Got a second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Here none. James, will you read Bill 2336 for the second time?
Bill 2336, an ordinance of the city of Garden Prairie, Missouri, approving the record plat for Hanley Peak and authorizing the city clerk to attest and certify approval of said plat.
Any discussion or debate?
Move for roll call vote.
The motion for roll call vote. Kim, would you call the roll?
Well, you second. I'll second.
For roll call? Okay, second.
Alderman Kessler.
Aye.
Alderman Wendling.
Aye.
Alderman Whitman.
Aye.
Alderman Gittmeyer. Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Ordinance 2262.
Declare Bill 2336 is ordinance 2262. Okay,
Sorry for making you stand up.
What? That was easy, wasn't it?
That's much easier than I have for the last 6 months.
Please come back. Just don't come back over this.
I hope not. I assume this passed then.
yes.
Yep.
Now, my surveyor said that this has to be signed off by the city, myself and my wife, and then it's got to be notarized. Is that done here or do I have to
We'll
go
take it. We'll
outside?
We'll take it from here.
The documents that you've dropped off, as long as Mike doesn't spill water on them. We'll get those signed by the mayor, city engineer, city clerk tonight, and then we'll get Chairman Ed Scorn over here to sign it tomorrow.
And just to be clear, we just passed the rezoning. The plat still has to be.
No,
We
just-
No, we did them
We
both.
did both?
We just did
2336.
Yeah, we went back.
You guys were a lot quicker than I thought.
Yeah,
You can go back.
No, do I need to
yeah. For you.
call you tomorrow?
I will call you.
Oh, you call.
Oh, yeah.
He's your guy, James. your
Yeah,
guy.
I'll make sure. We'll call you after Ed. Ed was here, unfortunately.
We have Ed's signature.
Oh, you already do?
We
His
just need
signature?
mine and John's.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
You want to hang out for about 30 minutes, maybe we get you done.
No, that's all right. It's been 6 months. I can wait till tomorrow.
Just come by in the morning, we'll take care of it.
All right.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
So,
But I have a question about resolution 371 before we move to adopt it.
okay.
Just for clarification, this is not replacing the city judge in any way. This is adopting the municipal.
Just for clarification, the city of St. Charles, who we have their assistant attorney here with us, had requested Nicholas to be they want him to be their judge, right? Their municipal judge. In order for him to be their municipal judge, he has to be appointed as a provisional judge somewhere. So we already have a judge. We already have a provisional judge. We can have additional provisional judges. So we're just appointing him as an administrative thing so that they could take him on as their full-time municipal judge.
I would love to hear the thought process behind that. I trust you. I'd love to have a conversation for a legal mind, explain it to me later. I don't stand in the way of it at all. That seems weird. But that's why we pay the lawyers, because they understand those things. So I'll move to adopt resolution 371.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hear none. Resolution 371 is adopted.
Make a motion not to accept resolution 372.
Okay. When you say not accept,
I mean,
is that a proper motion?
just to make a motion to accept it and vote no.
Oh, hold on. I'm gonna rule.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Well, a motion not to accept would not be consistent with Robert's rules. There's several options you can have. You can make a motion to approve it with it, and the vote lays out how it votes out. You can have a motion to postpone it. You can have a motion to postpone it indefinitely.
I would like to move to postpone it until the next meeting, to give us time to discuss.
I agree. I withdraw my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to postpone bill or resolution 372 until next meeting. Okay. All in
Second.
favor? In a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hear none. Resolution 372 is postponed.
Move to read bill 2324 as amended. well, let me ask a question before we do that. When we say amended, that is the item that was in the packet with the. Right.
I'd like to move to postpone Bill 2324 as what was brought up in the discussion earlier in our workshop that Alderman Key there brought up that we wanted readings of a bill one time, then the second reading at the second meeting, and that's not in here.
We read it the last, well, we didn't read it the last time.
It's not the policy, it's not in there to
The
go.
policy's not in there. So to read it once and then go again, I mean, if that's what the majority of this board wants to do, I mean, we need to discuss it.
I would be happy to, well, and you made the motion, so I would let the motion say, because it's not, but after that, I'll.
Okay, you got a motion to postpone because the board had expressed to amend the procedures to read bills once on one meeting and then the second reading on the following meeting.
Correct.
And that is not in this amended procedural rules.
Except when we want to read it twice.
Well,
Let's let me do the exception.
we would have to let it die for lack of second before we can discuss it, I do believe.
With it, whether it's in there or not,
But I don't.
you
think we
always
can
have,
discuss
you
it.
always have,
I think this is out of order. Point of order. Are we allowed to discuss it at this point after a motion's been made?
We need a second before the debate occurs.
Thank you.
we don't have a second.
We do not have a second, so I think the proper
Okay, so
motion, point of order
so
would be that it would
point of
die
order.
for lack of second.
I did second, did I not?
Second it,
You seconded postponing?
postponing it?
No.
We're
No,
talking
not
about
postpone.
postponing.
Okay. Mark, you can remove,
It dies.
it just dies then. Okay, so now we can debate it.
Well, now it's, we need a motion, some.
So I would move, if that is what we want to do, I would move to amend. And we probably need to take a couple minutes to look at it. I still think that we should vote on this tonight. It's drug out for ever. But I think that's a simple amendment that we can all agree on.
It's not as simple as you think. It's gonna take some movement. I would not want to do it on the fly.
Okay, then what my recommendation would be, because this has lasted so long and we are still without rules of order, is that we.
Run 40 years without them.
Well,
discuss
we still operate under Robert's rules for it. Yes.
Well, in an informal way, but I would suggest that we adopt this tonight and then amend for that provision in the next meeting. But maybe that could be the first move we make where we read it all in the same meeting.
I just wanted to make sure we get everything in there that we're talking about. So
I agree with you, but we keep postponing it for a minute.
I'd
So
like
I
to
make to read 23-24 as amended by title only for the first time.
Before the chair recognizes the motion, I'd like to make it clear that whether it's in there or not, the board always has the right to any bill to have a second reading, to make a motion for a second reading. So, I mean, whether it's in there, and
So we
then
don't
whether
need
it's,
an exception.
you don't need an exception.
Okay.
And that's fair.
Okay,
Yep.
so, and then in addition, if it is in there, you can always make an emotion to read them, to read it two times in a meeting. So
Okay.
it's kind of a,
Mr. Mayor, one thing I will ask, just from the staff's perspective, it would be from the staff's perspective, nice to have a clear and concise policy so that we don't show up to the meeting and then this meeting, you want to follow this procedure and that meeting, you want to follow the other. This meeting, we can rush it through and next meeting you want 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I just think it needs to be outlined so that the staff can adequately prepare both the items, but then also any supporting documentation that the board may require. So that, I mean, that, I'm the one that's brought this up for the last 2 years. I think it would be good to have some criteria laid out. Again, we've talked about whether it's administrative or not. That's what talked about during the work session, I guess. That might be up for debate on what's administrative or not, but I think it's important for understanding your expectations to outline those, whether you do it now or the next meeting, but it needs to be done. It shouldn't be just this meeting, we're gonna hold things over, and next meeting, we're gonna rush them through.
I'd like to restate the motion on the table,
Good.
but
There's
move to read for the first time by title only. Let's go ahead and move.
Got a motion to read by title only for the first time.
Second.
Got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hear none. James, will you read Bill 2324 as amended?
Bill 2324 as amended, an ordinance of the city of Dardenne Prairie, Missouri, amending chapter 110 of the municipal code of the city of Dardenne Prairie by enacting a new section 110-195 and providing for the procedural rules of meetings of the Board of Aldermen.
To the previous discussion, I am 100% in support of either amending the bill, or I think probably could be done with a resolution stating the board's intention, since it's non-binding, a resolution at the next meeting for the policy of reading once in the first meeting and extending the second reading into the subsequent meeting. I will move to read Bill 2324 as amended for a second time.
Got a motion? 24. Second time? Dave?
And then we will amend it.
I personally think a resolution stating the board's intent is.
Okay, I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hear none. James, will you read Bill 2324 for a second time?
Bill 2324 as amended, an ordinance of the city of Dardenne Prairie, Missouri, amending the chapter 110 of the municipal code of the city of Dardenne Prairie by enacting a new section 110-195 and providing for the procedural rules of the meetings of the Board of Aldermen.
Any discussion or debate?
Mr. Mayor, if I just, well, I guess, Wire, just so we're clear, I mean, if you, again, for the sake of transparency and the knowledge of residents, they're going to go to the code when they want to see how the city operations are supposed to be run. They're not going to call Kim and ask for an obscure resolution that anybody may or may not remember was passed, stating your intention. I would suggest just make it part of the policy. I mean, in the procedure. And if we want to make sure that our residents are educated on the subject, when they go to the code, they can feel that they know what the board's intentions were, not that they have to go back and look at some policies they have to request from Kim. I think it would behoove everyone to have it in the code, in our ordinance, on our website for everyone to see. And because that's what people go to.
Mhm.
They don't typically, even Aldermen, I mean, 10 years from now, Kim's retired, nobody's gonna remember that resolution. They'll know the ordinance. So, except Jeff will know, because he'll still be here.
Of course. I think that you make a great point. I think these are probably some nuanced things, whether it's a bill or resolution for the next meeting. I fully support that.
So just so I'm clear, that would the staff be directed then to prepare another ordinance for that, to that end?
Sure, and I don't mind officially submitting an RBA with the consensus of another board member.
Okay.
I move for a roll call vote on 2324.
Got a motion for a roll call vote.
Second.
Mike, got a second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hear none. Can we call the roll?
Alderman Whitman.
Aye.
Alderman Gittmeyer, Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Costello.
Aye.
Alderman Wonling.
Aye.
Ordinance 2263.
Clear Bill 2324 is ordinance 226. Staff communications, city attorney,
I have nothing, Mayor.
city engineer.
Yeah, so you have my report. But I just want to make note of a couple of issues. The Henning Road TAP grant will be turned in tomorrow. Kim has sent us an electronic copy of the application fee for that, so we will submit that to you state rate tomorrow. And the other notable thing, resident on Westfield Court, as you see in the report, we believe we have a plan of attack to help his runoff down at the bottom of the cul-de-sac. We will be implementing that first plan of attack, which is basically the upstream sumps are allowing water to bypass coming down the hill. So we're gonna have to rebuild those sumps, drop them down, create a better throat for the water to go into those inlets, and that will be done during phase. So
Okay. The administrator?
Sure. So a couple of things, figured I was going to give Tom the opportunity to bring him up, but I will talk about the conversation we had with representatives of the road board yesterday. Unfortunately, though, Tom had done a tremendous job getting some of the engineering and preliminary work paid for by the road board for Hanley Road. After further reflection, the road board appears to consider the Hanley Road mill and overlay a maintenance issue and not one that they're willing to fund unless there is some changes or rebuilding of the road that would, I guess, meet some of the St. Charles County's bike ped and other some of their other goals. So we're going to be looking, Tom and I are going to be looking at different ways to get that overlay paid for. Or we might have to come back with a deeper discussion about whether or not the board would like to see additional improvements or changes to the roadway that might make it eligible for a future project. So that's going to be a future conversation.
If I may, thank you for bringing that up. So the first recommendation from myself and probably James might concur is for us to make some tweaks to the upcoming STP grant cycle, which will be starting at the end of this year. And we think with my staff and maybe meeting with the transportation person from the road board, Sarah, we could maybe get 2 or 3 more points and get us over the hump to become part of the STP process. So
that would be federal money though.
That would be my first.
Yeah.
Because we went after because we didn't get the STP grant this past year on Hanley Road construction. So we tried to get the road board to pay for it. So the next tack, I think, should be to reapply for the STP at the end of the year, beginning of next year. And if that doesn't work with some tweaking that we can try to do for pedestrian and transportation movement, then we would have to relook at some of the.
Question, if we did apply for the STP, if that, what would you anticipate this to be?
Well, if we get the STP again, we already have received engineering money to do the design work. What's in question is the construction. So that split would be, we would wind up with approximately 10%. As the road board is paying half of our match.
Thank you.
So the next part of the conversation we had with the road board was in reference to Stump Road. And as we move forward with, we expect approval from MoDOT in the next week or so, probably on the PS&E for and allocating of funds for the Stump Road project. We are anticipating, due to rising cost of construction, that there will be an overrun on this project. We did ask the road board if they would be up for allocating additional funds for that. They said that they were, as long, they gave us a criteria of about 10%, as long as we're within 10%, that they have been meeting that difference. And so we would only be on the hook again for that, our matching percentage for that. I think I figured it out to be right now somewhere about 36,000. But of course, we haven't gone out to bid yet, so we'll see how the bids shake out. Hopefully they shake out really well. But we were happy to at least get from the staff an oral approval.
About what you just said with the road board, because when I talked to the road board and asked about cost overrun, they said they would match 50-50 if they had the funds available. So are they seeing something different?
They said that, so this morning, or when it was yesterday when we talked, there was, what was the, again, so keep in mind, this is the staff, and the staff's recommendations, it was the road board members themselves. they would still have to have it approved. As far as the staff's recommendation goes, they said that they would split that. My understanding from from the statements that Amanda said yesterday was that they would share the cost in accordance with what our split on the road was. So our split on the road is only, what, 20% now? Is that correct?
Why, she told me something.
Did you talk to Amanda Brower?
I believe I did.
Well, I think she's talking about the 50-50 meeting. 10%, 10%
Right.
of the
Well,
20.
she used to think if it was 3 million and it was gonna be 5, and so there was a $2 million difference there, that they would pay $1 million if they had that in the budget, but the funds wouldn't be guaranteed. That's what she had told me.
We're talking.
We're talking about something different.
Yeah.
I think we're saying kind of the same thing. So
Okay.
the share.
There's no $2 million overrun.
What's?
Yeah.
Let's use 200,000.
Okay.
So if it's at 200,000, or if the low bid comes in 200,000 over the allotted grant, which is approximately 2 million. Yeah.
That's a look at it.
Oh, so it's very-
Well, there's total project cost and there's the
Okay.
construction amount, 'cause you
Okay.
have to subtract out the engineering, right of way costs, all those other. Anyway, so we would be paying 100,000 and they would,
Okay, that's what she said.
which
Okay.
is half of the 20%
Okay.
of the share.
And-
And it's all subject to, I would make the presentation on behalf of the city, like I've been doing the last couple of years. And then the road board would make that decision. Soon after.
Yeah, she said there's no guarantee, but.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
But we do stand a good chance of getting those costs as long as we're within that approximately 50%.
Okay. Thank you.
So, next I wanted to address, I think Amy's still here. So there has been, considerable, communication back and forth just in the 2 years that I've been here with Sunterra and the staff, and then several this spring relating to their landscape plan and the, replacement of trees. Unfortunately, there's been lots of trees throughout the course of my 2 years here that have not
Speak
made
up,
it.
little James, please.
Turn it up, Dave.
Oh.
So, so Sunterra, the over on Old Highway N, the landscape plan, we've had, staff over there multiple times to, review both the landscape plan, and their, compliance with it, as well as, dealt with, just about every growing season here for the last 2 years, dead trees that have been replaced and replaced in accordance with, the landscape plan that was approved by the city. Currently, there are some plants, I believe some evergreens that do kind of act as a shield from the parking lot onto a home that's on, I guess that's Monet there. We sent our city arborist. We do now actually have a certified arborist on staff. Our city arborist is one over there, and he has concerns with the plan itself, as that those trees will keep dying because of the way the grade was done. In an attempt to try to help that resident, they built a berm and then they planted evergreens on top of the berm, which in drought conditions means all the water runs to the bottom of the berm and those things keep dying. I know we've been in a drought a lot for the last several months. So we've been looking at different types of vegetation that would also still create the required or the desired shielding or screening of that home and the headlights on the parking lot. Or we might have to ask them, and I'm not sure, we'll have to talk with John Young about this, but we'll have to ask them potentially to maybe remove the berm and plant them just flat on the ground and just have tall, like green arborvitae. So we've been working through that. There has been numerous concerns about that property's vegetation, and we've dealt with them progressively as they come. And so this is something that we're currently working with. We're working with landscape professionals on what's the best way to address that. and hopefully having a lasting fix that doesn't create a situation where we're doing this every summer, which so far in the 2 years I've been here, we've done this every summer. So, so yes, I appreciate that being brought to our attention, but we are certainly working hard at it and devoting quite a bit of time and effort onto that.
If I could speak just real quickly to that, there's also trees that have died off and been removed from the back part of the property that were filled in and covered with sod. So there's across the entire property, they've thinned them out and not replaced.
One thing that our city arborist did say was that unfortunately, in some of those cases, that may be the amount of trees and the proximity and size that he had concerns about the viability of the landscape plan in general, as far as it actually, as much stuff as we crammed onto there, if it was going to last, if it was ever going to last in the first place.
Right.
But that's something I've asked him to look at. And so we might be, issuing a letter from the city that says to either use of some sort of alternative plantings or some alternative screenings. We're certainly cognizant of what the issues are, and hopefully, I mean, given the environment and what we can plant there, hopefully, or what they can plant, we're not planting it. It's not city expense. We're going to try to get something addressed there. Last, just so that I'm clear, we're going to prepare an ordinance for the next meeting. It would be regarding, I guess, the rules relating to first and second reading bills. I'll make sure that that's a work session item, but also any input as to what circumstances that the board can envision that they would like to read it under two readings or one reading, whether that's an emergency or a situation where there's a required supermajority. I think we've talked about whether or not it's a resolution or maybe a ordinance change or a site plan. So input from the board on that prior to that meeting, actually in the next week, so that John Young and I can put that together would be helpful. And the last, I don't know what my note says there, I apologize. So I guess last, I did want to tell you that I did meet, as I mentioned in the last meeting, I had a meeting scheduled with PGAV. They're planners at their offices yesterday, and they were going to be working through a scope of services that I'll bring to the board to look at having an engagement with someone. It doesn't have to be PGAV. For the work to facilitate the efforts of the Town Square Vision Committee. We did have a good meeting. We did get to see some of the work that's being done in Richmond Heights, Brentwood, and down in Perryville even. So I'm going to get some of those charrettes that they've done and send that up to the board as well, so that you can kind of see some of the things that might be able to be produced by this body. Because there's going to be obviously a question of, and we do have a technical engagement currently with PGAV. I guess it would be important to have at least the temperature of the body. Is there an interest in continuing to engage PGAV? Not necessarily John B., but I actually met with other members of the teams there, or to go out to an RFQ process, and then a negotiation process, and then engaging a facilitator. So something to think about between now and the next meeting. But I will get you that scope of work that we'll be working off of, whether that is to go to an RFQ process or to go on an engagement with PGAV. I expect to have that I expect to have it before the next meeting. And that is all I have.
Okay. Alderman.
Anyone have anything? Sure.
Keith?
So it's a pretty interesting meeting this evening. And I it's, sitting up here, you know, it's not terribly easy. But I also want to kind of just point to, it makes it challenging, when there are a lot of angry comments from the crowd. We're here to try to make good decisions, and we appreciate everybody coming up to speak at the dais. But I just would respectfully request that those who do come in here, to try and respect the forum that we're in. And, with that being said, sorry, I don't know how to word that any better, but to thank everybody for coming. Thank everybody for bringing your thoughts to the table so we can hear your voices. Particularly, I'd like to speak with the woman who brought the fireworks, and I'd like to understand a little more about that after this, and also thank the sheriff deputies from St. Charles County. They're out here this evening. Thank you guys for coming in and providing some security for me. So,
Yeah, and I'll add on to what Alderman said. We will also do our best to maintain decorum as well, because you deserve that from us just as this body deserves that from all in attendance. So
yes,
I appreciate you calling that out. I have just a couple things. Ms. Detweiler made some comments earlier about fireworks. I would encourage the board to take some time to think about that. It is a sticky situation. It's a subject with a lot of emotion behind it. And it comes up probably once a year around a certain event. It does seem to me like this is becoming larger in that the displays are getting bigger, the technology is getting better, things like that. And I'd like us to at least have that conversation on what's the correct balance between personal freedoms and safety of neighbors, things like that. But I think that's a conversation that needs to be had.
Put it on a workshop.
I would be fully in support of that. Okay. And then there are two things I'd like to request from city staff. One of them is, you were talking about the PGAV and if we want to continue using them and all that kind of stuff. I personally, I don't think that I know enough of what they do for us and what value they add or what level of engagement we have. So could we get kind of a staff synopsis of what we're doing with them right now and what they feel the benefit is? I'd love to hear.
Right now.
Hey,
I wasn't sure if you meant what they're doing right now. Or you want to hear it now?
benefit to the city, yeah.
Okay.
And then the next one is, I sent out an email, next site, we adopted them as our economic development consultants, and they have worked for us. I'm really interested to see what over the past year we've gotten from them.
I think I've shared it out before. There's a, I don't know if you're familiar with OnBase. There's it's I don't know how to explain it. All of the data that we've got, all of the, at least so the data and the analysis and stuff they do on there, it's kind of like a SharePoint, but it's a working SharePoint. Okay. So I'll share that out to everybody again. And I'll also share out, we did meet recently, but I asked for a more detailed report about the ICSC convention. That's the International Council of Shopping Centers. We did not go this year. City busy, but with things that being said, they represented us at the trade show. What they have done and what they continue to do is, so for instance, Thomas Shaw Realty, or rather Thomas Realty Group, who has most of the parcels along technology. They take all of those listings, they take all that information, and while they're at these trade shows, they're presenting our parcels and our available stuff to vendors throughout the country, especially those who are looking to locate for the first time, maybe in Garden Prairie, or I'm sorry, in the region of St. Louis. So, so I'll get you the link to that data, but then I'll also get you some of the information about who they've had contact with, who we've had contact with, who are some of the potential retailers, because this is all about retail. It's not about any other kind of development.
Okay.
That's kind of sniffing around St. Louis.
Okay.
Send that to the entire board.
Yeah, I'll send it to them. Yeah, of
Thank you.
course.
Thank you. And just to say, whenever we had that discussion previously, there was that question of how do we really evaluate their value? I mean, if they bring in 50 different high income retails, we know that they're doing great. But if they don't get anyone right away, they may still be doing okay. So I'd like to hear your evaluation of what value they bring, and then the explicit documents and reviews that they have, just to set expectations. From that agreement, it was peer analysis and retail leakage report, market analysis report, aerial maps, focus property analysis, retailer target list, and retail marketing brochure. So if those would be great.
And that's all on the home base. I don't know if you know about base camp. That's what it's called. Base camp. And then we also provide that to, excuse me, developers and realtors also in our region. That way, they have access to that data to help with their marketing efforts as well.
Awesome. Great. That's all I have.
Anybody else? Speaking of development, I don't know if you've seen that In-N-Out Burger, they announced they were moving to the Midwest. Out. Them got an email back, said that they would send our information. Their real estate purchasing department, and thanked me. I also talked to other realtors that have pieces of property for sale. They said that they would also get that. So, we'll see. And I know they're fantastic. And the fact they're moving to the Midwest, they're opening up some kind of base in Indiana.
Awesome.
Welcome to Darden Prairie.
Hopefully it's something the board would like to see.
Like good hamburger.
Animal fries.
I'd like to, talk to Carla afterwards. I'm in complete agreement with you, Carla. This is unacceptable. The big issue is enforcement, because in cities that have no fireworks ordinances throughout the 4th of July week, they typically don't and can't. So that's gonna be a big challenge. No, officer? Okay. 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 Right, I know. Okay, excellent then. Then I think we,
Okay.
I think that Saturday is second, third, fourth, and fifth, is it not? I don't think
specific
first-
days, I know.
Yeah. Well, it may not be. I think the biggest challenge here is making sure that
It's the
the,
size of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think these are, I'm questioning whether or not these tubes are legal. They look like 5-inch
Right.
tubes.
Right.
I will tell you that.
The ones that you can buy from the tents? Wow, okay.
so the difficulty there gets into the nuance of the rules in the law. If you said, fireworks are illegal flat out, it's really easy to know and they can enforce that. But if they say no fireworks over 3 inches, then they've got to go look around and try to find that firework that's a little bit bigger than the others and go take a tape measure. So that's one of the things we really need to think about is how do we do it so clearly that people are able to comply and that it can be enforced?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great discussion topic for
Yeah.
the working session. Welcome your attendance.
The fireworks expert.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention tomorrow night, we have a
Oh,
concert.
the concert tomorrow night? Yeah. Yeah, hopefully everyone is aware of our concert program.
Who's tomorrow?
Tomorrow night. Yeah.
How are we doing on the sign out there?
It's still down.
Well,
Still off, so
The ticket
I mean-
with IT was just open last week, so they said that they've taken a look at it and they're still evaluating.
So
Motion.
got a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all third.
Third, fourth, Mark, Dave, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
That was what
The comments.
yeah, I come. Quarter. But wound up perfect.
Thank you. I guess it's not. Well, it's gonna be. I know you're trying to. I wouldn't know. It doesn't change. I know. They're seeing it from the devil, said that, you know, we got. Right.
So this looks like a
Right, and he mentioned that's a good.
Yeah, so